Good evening, everybody. Hope you're staying well, staying safe, staying indoors if you can. It's a lovely evening here in Orlando. A bit cooler today. Big news potentially coming out of the White House press briefing, which is going to start anytime soon. The reason I do these at the time I do them is because it's like the time that Trump's press briefings finish, it's going to be almost dark and then I can't do it. And I'd rather do it in this setting than indoors, basically. So big news expected today about President Trump wanting to give some guidelines on when the country is going to reopen. I hope he's going to give some real guidelines and real timelines and which states he's thinking about reopening. I doubt if Florida's going to be among them. I think there's too much going on here. I think there are too many cases. I think he's going to go for those that are under 1,000. Yesterday evening he said there was maybe 20 that were in the position that they could open in some fashion, and I guess that's going to be a staggered approach. He's not going to just let everything go, or it's not him actually, it's the governors. He actually backed down yesterday, saying that he was going to take control if the governors didn't. He's kind of gone away from that stance now, and the governors are going to take it into their own hands as they would have done anyway, and they're going to liaise with their city and county mayors, because that's how it's going to work. It's not going to be from President Trump saying anything really. So the news is going to be, let's have a look at the daily stats from the US as we normally do. There's going to be a new story on President Trump saying that the number of cases has peaked in the US now. So we'll look at that. We'll look at the opening up of our country council, a bit of a mouthful of a name for a council, but that's what it is, and how that's going right now. Info on the Florida peak, where we are with that peak. Unfortunately, it looks like it's moved back a little bit. And then we're going to have a look at the stats on cases today or yesterday in Florida, see where that's gone. And then we're going to look at potential issues with rapid testing. So they've got this rapid testing now where you get the results back much quicker than you have before. And we're going to see how that's going. And then we're going to look at Governor Ron DeSantis and what he's had to say lately on reopening the economy as well, in line with what President Trump's going to do. So let's see what Governor DeSantis is saying. So let's go over to that now, and then we'll come back here and I'll give you my thoughts on where I think everything's headed. Before we do that, actually, I don't have the news yet on what President Trump's going to say about opening up the country. So that's going to be a kind of breaking news at the end of the video. I'll bring you that whether he says something tangible or whether he doesn't, just so that you're aware of what's going on when the video comes out. Okay, let's go over to the news now. Daily cases were on the way down from a peak of 34,196 on April the 4th. We had got down to 26,641 on April the 13th, and then it went back up again to 30,720 on the 14th. It now looks to be coming down again, so let's hope it stays on a downward trend this time. President Trump said on Wednesday that daily cases had peaked in the US, and he used this as a catalyst then to spring into how he was going to reopen the country, with some states opening before his deadline of May the 1st. That was before data came out which showed that cases had gone back up on Wednesday, but they're now dropping again. Also on Wednesday, President Trump announced the Opening Our Country Council, which includes many business leaders and healthcare professionals. However, some business leaders had no idea that they'd been called on, and others who said yes had no idea really what they were letting themselves in for. We'll have to wait and see exactly what part this council does play in opening up America. It seems that the rapid test for COVID-19, which has been made available by Abbott Laboratories, isn't proving very reliable. It said that there's a 30% error rate. Abbott says that simply collecting the samples in a different manner will eliminate that error rate. In Florida, new COVID-19 cases had been getting down to around 650 by the 13th of April, but again spiked on the 14th of April. This was in line with general US statistics, and it's hoped that this will come down again. The University of Washington changed its opinion on when the deadliest day in Florida would be again, and they're now going back to May the 6th. It's kind of gone between late April and early May, and it's now back to early May. Something that I haven't spoken before about is the unemployment claims in Florida. As you can see here, There's now been a total of over 652,000 claims in the past 4 weeks, when the weekly claims total is just under 10,000 usually. And this is obviously another reason why Florida and the country needs to get back on its feet as quickly as possible. Governor DeSantis of Florida spoke yesterday afternoon about establishing a task force to get Florida back to work again. This was a short time before President Trump spoke, but after Ron DeSantis had spoken with President Trump. Governor DeSantis said it would be next week before he outlined his proposals. Let's have a look now then about what President Trump said about the US reaching peak number of cases per day. That seems to have played against him yesterday. We were doing really well for the last 3 or 4 days, and then yesterday the number of cases went up again. So I don't know whether that's just a spike and we have gone over the top, or whether we're going to trend up again now. I really hope we're not. But yeah, it kind of throws into a bit of doubt what he was saying, but I'm going to keep an eye on it and we'll see where it goes from yesterday, see how we do today, tomorrow, till I bring you that next video. Our council thing seems to be a bit of a shoot from the hip thing that was brought out yesterday by President Trump. It looks like the people who were called to it, some of them weren't even aware that they were being called. And you know, that, what does that mean for anything? Is there a strategy? Is it just a jumble of people in a room and whoever shouts loudest gets heard? I really hope not. I really hope that there's some really intelligent people in that room who aren't in it just for themselves and aren't just in it to get America opened as quickly as possible, so that then they can be blamed if it all goes horribly wrong, them and the governors. Because as I was saying at the beginning there, President Trump now has put the onus back on the governors to get their states open in the manner that they see fit. So again, if it all goes really badly wrong, President Trump can go, well, you know, it was nothing of my doing. But we'll see. We will see how that goes. Ron DeSantis didn't put too much flesh on the bones. He actually said he was waiting until next week before he gave some guidelines and some opinion on when he thought things could get back to normal. We're still in a lockdown situation until May the 2nd, so we're still a couple of weeks away from that expiring. There are still several counties with the put a face covering on when you go out order, and still a couple of counties with a curfew order here in Central Florida, those being Orange and Osceola. So not much more to say about Florida right now. We did have a little bit, again, of a spike yesterday when things were going quite well, in line with the US. So again, hopefully that wasn't people thinking, oh, we've reached the top now, we can kind of do a little bit as we please. And I hope this little spike yesterday has encouraged people to go back to what they were doing before that happened. To the rapid testing, that is a bit of an issue for me. If we've got a 30% error, and it's kind of the wrong way, it's saying you haven't got it when you have, rather than you have got it when you haven't. I'd rather see that than the other way around. 30%, you know, that ain't a good margin of error. So hopefully Abbott are doing something about that, because they need to right now. We can't have this. You know, I think that if we're going to open up the borders to people coming in from the outside, then we're going to have to do a really rapid test. Like I'm talking about 5 minutes. So you're 10 minutes, so you get put in a holding pen when your flight arrives. Everybody gets tested, and within 10 minutes they're told they're clear or they're not clear. Now, you know, there's going to be some error in that as well, unfortunately, and some people who are clear are going to be told they're not. And I don't know what happens then. I don't know whether they get sent back on the next plane or they get another chance at a test, something like a roadside breath test, where you get tested, and if you're positive for drunk and disorderly, or sorry, drunk in charge of a vehicle, you go along to the police station and then give another sample, a better sample, and you know you get a, you know, that sample counts. So maybe that's going to be the way forward. Maybe when you arrive, you're going to be given the quick test, and then if you're found to be infected, then you get another chance for another test that might take a little longer. Maybe it might be a half an hour test. So you get put in another little holding place, and you get tested again. And if you're found not infected at that point, you're let in, and if you are found infected, you're thrown out again. I can really see that happening. Something's going to happen before they allow people back in. I still think it's going to be August before planes are allowed in. I still think it's going to be June, either early or mid-June, when some resorts open for the theme parks, and I still think it's going to be July the 1st when Magic Kingdom opens, and when either Islands of Adventure or Universal Orlando opens and SeaWorld. So I think all three parks may have something going by Independence Day, July the 4th. The breaking news will come straight after this, whether it's good news or no news. Stay tuned and you'll be up to date with whatever's going on Thursday evening. So in President Trump's Thursday briefing, I was expecting him to give a bit of an outline on which states could be opened up first and when that process would start. He didn't do that. Instead, what he said is, and I'm going to read this, healthy people would now be able to return to work as conditions on the ground allow. He said that this would be a gradual process which would allow restrictions to be eased and come off. He did say though that he expected states who wanted to do this to be able to do that quickly with federal help. He also said that as we reopen, our goal will be to quickly identify and address any outbreaks and put them out rapidly. If the virus returns in the fall, as some scientists think it may possibly, these guidelines will ensure that our country is up and running so that we can likewise put it out quickly. There wasn't such great news for foreign travel or travel into America from foreign countries. He said, as we begin a science-based reopening, we must be extra vigilant in blocking the foreign entry of the virus from abroad. Border control, travel restrictions and other limitations on entry will be more important than ever to keep the virus in check and allow Americans to get back to work. Now, I don't take that as horrible news because I think the timelines are going to be fairly swift anyway. Once President Trump sees that things are under some kind of control, that cases are falling, deaths are falling, then as soon as states are settled, I think then we're going to get travel back into the States. So I don't think it's going to be kind of a next year thing before this is sorted out. That's all. Okay, that was the breaking news. Thanks for watching. See you in a couple of days. Take care. Bye-bye.